I'm not sure if I should call this episode 2 or what I'm gonna do. So I'm just gonna put titles on things, I guess, for a little bit here. What I wanted to touch on today is healthcare and healthcare insurance, because apparently this week our wonderful, I try not to call them bozos in Washington, DC, but frankly, they really are all going to get together and have these listening sessions about healthcare and insurance. And they want to talk about the Affordable Care Act, which we all really call Obamacare because that's what it is. And this monstrosity should be straddled to him because it's what he foisted on us. The whole reason why we had a government shutdown, well, not the whole reason, but a lot of it was because there's these subsidies that go with Obamacare that are gonna expire at the end of the year, and it's gonna cause a lot of people's insurance premiums to go really high, and most people cannot afford that. And the reason why this is happening is because Obamacare is broken. And I certainly wouldn't blame myself for that because I literally got in my car here in Florida and drove my butt up to Washington, DC, and protested outside the Supreme Court when they were ruling and deliberating on this bill or this thing that was going to become law or had become law. And we had high hopes because we had Chief Justice John Roberts. He's on our side. Bush put him in. He's going to be a good guy. And he totally turned on us, which prompted me to say, which closet was he found in with a young boy? I mean, that's how my mind was just so blown that I was like, what do they have on him? Because there's no way somebody who's coming from any kind of a conservative place would have ever voted for Obamacare, and I can't understand how anybody would have, period. Liberals think it's great because they're like, "Oh, this is like it's moving towards government insurance," which again, we don't want. When the government is in charge of stuff, they screw it up. Hence why Obamacare is so screwed up. Now, some people may be like, "You don't know what you're talking about." But I was on Obamacare, so I do know what I'm talking about. I got divorced in 2018, and with that, I lost this great health insurance coverage I had through Disney with my ex-wife. So all of a sudden, I'm left as a self-employed person, and I gotta find health insurance, and I had to do it in the middle of the year, like, when it isn't sign-up time. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. I'm not with a company. I don't have a group that I'm part of. I have to go as an individual and try to find healthcare insurance. And I ended up on the healthcare, I don't even know what they call it, the marketplace. I think that's their terminology for it. And I found myself what turned out to be, it was a fairly good policy. But here in Florida, there were like 3 companies. 2 of them I'd never heard of. And I was like, most doctors don't even take those. And then there was Florida Blue Cross and Blue Shield, which is what I ended up with because, frankly, it was the only thing that any doctors would actually take. And then it was only a few of them, and I kept losing my primary care physician because they kept saying, "Oh, we don't take that anymore. We don't take that anymore. We don't take that anymore." So I'm like, "Great. This is fabulous." Now, the interesting thing about paying the premiums for that is that when I would put, like, how much money I made and everything in there, it would figure out what, they were gonna subsidies or whatever they were going to give you. I think they called them tax credits. I believe when I filled out my taxes, that's how I would fill out the taxes, is these were the tax credits I got, and then depending upon how much I made, I either had to pay more at the end of the year if they gave me too much credit, or they had to give me some money and it came back as a refund because they hadn't given me enough to cover. I would basically say in my case, they covered about 50% of the premium. And what my amount would have been without that was well over $800 a month. And I don't know about you guys, but when you're paying mortgage or rent, which at this point, I think in a lot of places, if you're staying in a somewhat decent place, you're looking at close to $2,000 at least, I'm thinking. I can't really gauge it because I've been in home ownership now for a very long time. But I think what I see is like a lot of places are renting for about $2,200 to $2,600. So you've got that. And then you have almost $800 on top of that for health insurance, and that's just where I live and my health insurance that I have to have, because if I don't have it and I get a major medical issue, I'll be bankrupt and done. So, it's like after that, where's the money for all the other stuff? So I basically was paying about 400 and something a month, which was still really, really tough and tight on me. And interestingly, this is sign up time right now. Kelly and I just re-upped the insurance that we get through her company, and the two of us are paying the same amount I paid for just myself per month. So that just goes to show you how it's way different when you're on the Affordable Care Act stuff. It's not affordable. It never was. When it first came in, I actually lost my doctor. They said you wouldn't lose your doctor. And I still had regular health insurance at that time under Disney. And we lost our primary care physician through that because of the way they switched up how the insurance stuff was going to be and everything. But what I love about Washington, D.C. and our Congress is that they'll go there and they'll either have these listening sessions, or we're going to bring people in and have a bunch of hearings, and nothing ever happens. Nothing gets done. You'll see, okay, these people really, the Democrats really support this person right now. So then they're all nice and you're so wonderful. And then the Republicans over here go, we hate you and blah, 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 blah. And we're going to give you tough questions and we're going to yell at you. And then vice versa. You get somebody that the Republicans like, same thing. We love you, love you, love you. And then the Democrats are like, we hate you. Blah, blah, blah. And then here we are, the American people going, and? Okay, I'm glad you got to yell at somebody. Do you feel better now? Because it doesn't help me. How are we in 2025 and these people haven't figured out what to do about healthcare insurance? And on top of that, what's even more important is healthcare, period. We have a really effed up system. I don't want to have some kind of socialist communist medical thing, but we should have the best care here, and we should be able to pay for it without having to like sacrifice our first child or give up any future we have. I mean, it is just insane how expensive everything is. And I wanted to bring this out to illustrate what we have going on in this country. I've seen several of these over on TikTok, and this was one of my favorite examples. All right, so this is just absolutely
So I don't
nuts.
normally jump on that health insurance is a scam, but today it is absolutely a scam and I swear it's fraud. I need an MRI on my back because I hurt my back. My clinic sent it over to a hospital. They ran it through my insurance. They called me and said, "Hey, your portion of it that you're going to have to pay after insurance is $5,100 for this MRI." So I'm like, "Wow, okay." I was like, before we do that, like, just wait, because I'm like, $5,100 just seems wild. I called another place who was also waiting for my insurance to go through to see how much it was going to be. My insurance was still on hold with them, but I asked them, "Hey, if I just cash pay this, how much is it going to cost for this MRI?" And they're like, "Well, if you just want to cash pay it, not run anything through insurance, it's $700. And so I'm like, sounds a lot better than $5,100. So I called the original hospital back and said, "Hey, if I don't run this through insurance, what is the cost if I just decide to self-pay it, since I know the other place is $700? The lady's like, "I'll rerun it under you being self-pay and I'll call you back with your total." So a few minutes go by, the lady calls me back and she goes, "Hey, I talked to my supervisor. Since you have insurance, we are not going to let you self-pay it, so we won't give you that number." How is that not a scam? Isn't it my choice if I want to self-pay something versus running it through my insurance? How I should get to decide that, not you, but they're like, "Nope, since you have insurance and you've already done it that way, we are not going to allow you to self-pay it." And I think that's because they probably were going to give me a self-pay price, kind of like the other place, maybe a $700, maybe up to $1,300, still way less than $5,100 that it was going to make me pay. And I just think, like, what if, somebody wouldn't, like, what if I wouldn't have called around? I would have been stuck with this $5,100 bill. Insurance is such a ripoff. I don't know how in the world this hospital is telling me that I now can't self-pay it. What does it matter? I'm gonna go to the other place, but I don't know how this hospital is allowed to now tell me, "Hey, yeah, you can't self-pay something if you have already had us run it through your insurance." I haven't even had it yet.
I mean, wow. And here's the really fun fact that I think probably all of you know, unless you're really young and you haven't had to do a lot of doctor's visits and scans and all this other stuff. But I have because I get kidney stones and had other medical stuff and surgeries. Once you're in the hospital system and you've had insurance, it's not like you can pretend like you don't have it later on or what have you. I mean, they're gonna know that. So there's no way that you can't not tell them eventually or whatever. They have that on record. So you can't just go forward and try to pretend like you don't have insurance. Once you're in the hospital system, it's there. I have experience with this too, because back, oh, probably I was in my 20s and I didn't have health insurance because we couldn't afford it. I was self-employed, and, actually, I don't even know that I was self-employed. I think whatever company I was working at didn't offer healthcare benefits, and I couldn't afford to get health insurance, so I just went without. I ended up with hyperthyroidism, and they needed to give me, some radioactive iodine to shrink my thyroid, and then I was gonna have to go on pills for the rest of my life, and I went to the top endocrinologist in Colorado. This is the top specialist in this. And I would go in there and I was like, I'm self-pay and I'm paying cash, and I'd pay $100 for the visit. I mean, that's amazing. You're going to the top person for this, and they charged me $100 because I was a cash self-pay. And there are other times where I would go in for, like, an ER visit, and I could, like, talk down and get discounts and everything else. So, it totally makes sense to me what this girl is saying is that it actually is better almost to not have healthcare insurance unless you get something major. So, like, if you get a cancer diagnosis or you have to have a major surgery, then you're in trouble. But I see why young people were like, "We're not gonna pay into the system," and this is what was wrong with Obamacare to begin with because they saw it too and they went, "Wait, if we don't have healthy young people in this system, it's gonna go crazy, and it's gonna be nuts, and premiums are gonna go up, and it won't work. We need to have healthy people, not just sick people pulling from the system." But young people are like, "Well, I don't wanna pay, 200, $300 a month, 'cause if I put that money over here in maybe a health savings account and then pay for whatever medical stuff, my annual, and maybe I have some other thing I have to get done, that's way cheaper than me paying into an insurance premium that I'm not really gonna use." So part of Obamacare was, "Well, we're gonna fine you. If you don't get health insurance, you're gonna be fined." And so that was their way of forcing young, healthy people to get into the system until people finally said, "We're not doing this anymore," and they had to get rid of that. But for a while there, it was like 700, I can't remember, it was like 700, 800, $900, something like that, that you had to pay on your taxes when you would file your taxes at the end of the year if you could not prove that you had health insurance. And a lot of young people were like, $700, annually is way cheaper than 300 times 12, you know? These people just drive me crazy. This seems like it should be so easy for them to figure out some kind of system that everybody can work on. You could have some kind of a national system, or even each state could have their own thing, but you make it an open thing so that we could cross borders and, "Oh, look, Wyoming's got really good insurance." I mean, you do this with businesses. That's why you have businesses that are out of Delaware and stuff, even though the people don't live in Delaware, because you look up there and you go, "Oh, the taxes are way better, so I'm gonna establish my business there." Same thing with your health insurance. I'm gonna get insurance from that state over there because it's cheaper for me. And if you have that kind of competition, it's gonna bring down all the prices. And then, why doesn't the government, if you really wanna do something, government, why don't you go in and figure out how to get rid of all of the waste and everything? Because part of what's causing the issue here too is Medicare, and they charge things so high. And you have to wonder, like, you get your bills, I'm sure you see the invoice, and you see that your insurance company has talked a bill down by, like, 2/3 or 3/4, and you're like, "There's no way a hospital or a doctor is gonna take that kind of a hit unless it really doesn't affect them that much." So, How much are they, like, raising the prices on all this stuff that they don't need to be raising it that much, that you can get your insurance company to talk it down? So, I don't know what the solution is here because I don't have a big brain and I'm not in politics and all that stuff. But what I do know is that your listening sessions do not work. We're tired of you just sitting around and listening and talking. Do something. And don't cause it to close down the government at the same time. I mean, you would think the minute the government closed it, they'd be like, "This is pretty serious. We better come up with something." I don't know. Is it gonna take the pitchforks? You know, they used to tar and feather politicians and then run them out on rails. Like, literally, you would be put into a barrel and you would be put on the railroad track and run down the rail. So I would say, "Run you down the rail." You think if we did that more often that they would maybe listen to us? 'Cause it's not like you're really I mean, you could be hurting them because the tar might be a little warm. But let the tar cool down a little bit and then a little bit of the feathers in there. Here's the other insane thing that I saw today. Um, I'm sure you guys know that Marjorie Taylor Greene is on President Trump's bad side, and he's calling her a rhino. I mean, if she's the rhino, then you guys better figure out what the Republican Party's about, because she's definitely not the rhino. The people that he's endorsing are really the rhinos. I mean, this is just so here's the rhino, and this guy's MAGA. Lindsey Grahamnesty. That's what I used to call him back when I had my other political show. I used to call him Lindsey Grahamnesty because he was all about amnesty for immigrants. He just wanted everybody to come on in and you can stay and we'll give you all amnesty. He has a Liberty score of an F, 43%, but he's MAGA. Marjorie Taylor Greene has an A, 100%. It's not even like 90%. It's 100%. She's the rhino. Huh. I mean, this is how backwards we've gotten in the government, and I don't know what we're gonna do, but, I do know what would really help with our healthcare and, the system probably would be to put us all on the same thing that Congress is on. Clearly, they've got a great plan. And then I also think we should all be getting the same healthcare that these really bad dirtbag globalist deep staters get. You know, the ones that seem to live forever? Like, for example, Dick Cheney just died. I thought to myself, "How is Dick Cheney still alive?" The man had like, what, 5 heart attacks? Did he even have, like, a heart transplant or something? I mean, I don't even know, but that man should have been dead a long time ago. How was he even still alive to make it into his 80s? And then have you seen Hillary Clinton lately? She actually seems like she's getting better and younger looking. She doesn't look like an as much of an old rag as she used to. It's like, how are you getting younger looking over there? And so many of these guys, they live into their 90s, and it's like, how? How are they living into their 90s? Because they're not out, exercising, running and swimming and lifting weights and stuff. They're not doing that, and they're eating all kinds of crap and stuff. So how do they keep on living? I mean, maybe when they're doing this listening session, they should talk about adrenochrome and is there like a plan that we can all get on with that? Obviously, I'm joking about it because for somebody who's completely against abortion because it is child sacrifice, I'm definitely about no, no, no on the child sacrifice outside of the womb for sure. So, yeah, I don't think we should be sacrificing young children and taking adrenochrome out of their blood and drinking it. What did Hillary call that stuff? Like gold juice or something? I don't know. But just another one of those conspiracies out there. I haven't looked a whole lot into it. But the thing that made me go, maybe that really is a thing is just watching all of these people out here. And you think to yourself, how in the world do these people live so long? I mean, like George Bush Sr.? I mean, the man was like a mannequin in the chair, like, I can't move, but I'm still alive. How did that happen? I mean, how do you keep on living that long? What was the other guy? I was trying to think of his name. Henry Kissinger. Let me look him up. How old was he when he died? Because that guy seemed like he was living forever too, and he was, man, talk about a deep state or globalist. He was 100. He lived to be 100. So, it's crazy. All right, I wanna thank you guys for joining me for this little, rant of mine, and, appreciate having you guys here with me, and we'll just keep pumping out more of these. Let me know if you have a topic that you would like to talk about, or you ever wanna join me to rant about something, that would be fun too. You guys, take care.